The most important thing when getting started with Scale Insights is keeping it super simple. You've probably seen other people using Scale Insights where they're stacking 20 rules on top of each other, but that's not what we're going to do, and it's not what we need to do either. Personally, the only rule I've used on my account is the bidding rule for the past couple of months, and it's helped me consistently keep a 25% ACOS. So here's a screenshot of my ad account. You can see, the past 2 months, it's kept a 25% ACOS. And I will share later the exact settings that I use to do that. But first, I just want to go over some general layout stuff for how the bidding rule works. So you can see the first tab here where you apply the rule. It looks a lot like Campaign Manager inside Seller Central. It shows us the campaigns, the ad groups, how many clicks, units, dollars spent, ACOS there is for each campaign. It'll show you the bidding rule applied to that campaign, or bidding rules if you have multiple ones applied. And then this magnifying glass with the purple paper shows us a preview of what changes Scale Insights is about to make to that campaign. Here, you'll see all the presets of different bidding rules that you can apply. So again, if you wanted to apply one of these presets, you'd click the ASIN you want to apply it to, select the rule, and then set it. I want to go over some general settings that are the same no matter what rule you're using, and then we're going to build a bidding rule together that you can use for your campaigns. So these two tabs, settings and excluded dates, are default settings, meaning they're automatically applied to all your bidding rules. We set them once and then we're done. And honestly, there's nothing you have to change, but I'm still going to walk through them so you know what they are and how they work. So this first tab, settings, the first feature you'll see is days of recent data to ignore. This is saying, hey, Scale Insights, when you judge my account performance and before you make adjustments, please ignore the past 2 days of data. The reason why the default setting is 2 here is because it usually takes about 48 hours for Campaign Manager to have all its data up to date and solidified. So we ignore the past 2 days because it's often just not a complete data set. So we don't want Scale Insights to use that info when deciding how to adjust our bids. The second feature here is days to analyze, and the default setting is 30. You'll see Scale Insights has a note here saying lesser days improves adaptability, while more days improves reliability. Basically, all that means is the longer time frame you have here, the more reliable the bid adjustment will be because Scale Insights has more days of data to go off of. But you don't need to change anything here. 2 days of recent data to ignore is fine. 30 days to analyze, that's fine. The last feature here is days to execute rules. By default, Scale Insights will update your bid and make changes every 24 hours. Now, if there are certain days for whatever reason that you don't want the bid to run, you could just uncheck it here and then click Save. The second tab you'll see here is excluded dates. Excluded dates is for days you want to leave out of your PPC data, like Black Friday or Prime Week. These are days when your conversion data is either higher or lower than normal. And because it's outlier data, we don't want to use that when deciding what our normal bid should be. So yeah, if we just had Prime Week, put those dates in here. If we just had Black Friday, put those dates in here. Basically any day when your conversion data is a lot higher or a lot lower than normal due to some holiday or event. So I just put in Prime Day, July 16th and July 17th, because these are 2 days that are abnormal. Okay, so that covers these back-end rules. These default settings apply to every campaign. Again, the settings that are already here when you open your account are good to keep. You don't need to change anything. Now let's go over to the bidding rules and create a custom rule together. When you click bidding rules, Scale Insights will show you all the current rules and all the components of each rule. If you click on this green pencil, it'll open up a menu showing all these same components, but in a menu where they can be edited. Instead of editing a current rule though, let's go and create a new rule together. The way we do that is at the top, you click Create Rule. It'll open up a similar menu again, but it's all blank. This is going to be a 25% target ACOS rule. This is what I use on my campaigns currently. And the goal of this is going to be to achieve a 25% target ACOS on all our exact match campaigns. Now, technically, you might not want to do a 25% ACOS on every single campaign. Perhaps there are some keywords that are more important to you because they're higher volume and you're willing to pay more to keep your ranking for those things. So you might have a 25% ACOS on 90% of your keywords, and then, a 45% ACOS on keywords that matter a little bit more to you. But for simplicity, let's just do everything at a 25% ACOS. That's what I do. The first feature Scale Insights wants us to choose is keyword criteria. They say this is when the bidding rule will be executed on keywords. If you click this drop down, the different criteria it gives us are ACOS or clicks. So another way to read this is saying, hey, Scale Insights, when you see that this campaign is above a 25% ACOS, then I want you to make a bid adjustment to it. One caveat to this is that Scale Insights is looking at the days to analyze that we have in the default settings. Remember, we said 30 days to analyze, so it's going to look within that time frame. If you have above a 35% ACOS in that time frame, then it's going to make an adjustment. It's not the lifetime ACOS of the campaign. So if you went to that campaign and you clicked lifetime data and the lifetime ACOS of that campaign was 35%, that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about in the past 30 days or whatever days to analyze you set. If that campaign has a 35% ACOS in those past 30 days, then this rule is going to run. Likewise, it's the same thing for clicks. So if you say, I want you to make adjustments every 15 clicks if you say Scale Insights, I want you to make adjustments every 15 clicks that this campaign gets, it's not going to be the lifetime clicks of the campaign. It's going to be 15 clicks within that days to analyze that you set. So in the past 30 days, since that's the default setting, if you got 15 clicks, Scale Insights is going to run this rule. If you didn't get 15 clicks, it's not going to run this rule. So instead of doing ACOS, I typically do amount of clicks, and you'll see this says above or equal to 15 clicks with 0 orders. But that's not what I want. So what happens if I don't see the criteria that I want here? I can go to the criteria profile and I can create my own criteria. So I click create. I'm just going to do 15 clicks. And then clicks, minimum clicks before making an adjustment, I want it to be 15. So 15 or more clicks. And I click create. And now when I look in the drop down here, where is it? Okay, so it says above or equal to 15 clicks. Now, how do you know how many clicks to put here? This is really dependent on what the average CVR of your product is. So let's say you have a new product and you're seeing that you're converting average 10% conversion rate. That means you're getting 1 sale for every 10 clicks. So you don't want to put anything less than 10 clicks. You consider your conversion data. If it's 1 sale every 10 clicks, then you want to bump it up 1.5x to 2x that. So, 10% conversion rate, 1 sale every 10 clicks. I bumped it here to 15 clicks. The reason to do this is because you don't want to be adjusting your bids before you have enough data. So, like if I had a 10% conversion rate and I wanted to adjust my bid every 5 clicks, well, that 6th click, 7th click, 8th click, 9th click, 10th click could have been a sale. And so we don't want to be cutting our data collection phase too short when considering our conversion rate. Ad group criteria, campaign criteria, just avoid those. We want to maintain control of our keywords at a keyword level, so don't worry about those. Priority, since we're only going to be running one rule, we don't have to fill this in. You could just leave it blank. Priority is if you're running multiple rules, you just assign a value, whatever you want it to be, to run first. So if we had 3 rules, I can say, okay, the rule I want to run first is going to be 100. The second one's going to be 99. The third one's going to be 98. You make up the values, and you just have to make sure that the rule you want to run first is the highest value. But again, we're not doing more than one rule, so we're not going to run that. Next features are minimum bid and maximum bid. This is saying, Scale Insights, I'm okay with you adjusting my bid amount, but once I get to $2, I want you to stop increasing my bid. So that's what I have on my account. I don't have a minimum bid dollar amount. I just have a maximum bid dollar amount. And that's just looking at my keyword data and saying, yeah, once it's above $2 per click, that's getting a little expensive for me for this category. So I just cap it there. These next 3 features should sound somewhat familiar. Days to analyze, we just looked at that in the default settings. This will be 30 days. But if you want to change it and override that default, you can enter a value here. And days of recent data to ignore, remember in the backend settings, that's set at 2. But if we wanted to change that and override it, we can put in a different value here. The default settings are fine, so I leave those blank. Another feature is days to observe adjusted bid. This is telling Scale Insights that after you make a bid adjustment, I want you to change nothing for 4 days or 3 days or whatever value you put here. Again, I leave that blank because my criteria is right here. Now moving on to the adjustment type, I have target ACOS because this is a target ACOS rule. Another type of adjustment you could do is a state change. So you can do a rule saying, hey, if you get above 15 clicks or 20 clicks and no sales, I just want you to turn off this keyword. So set it as target ACOS because this is a 25% target ACOS rule. I put it at 25%. Click this optimize bid adjustment using revenue per click. If you want more info on what that means, Scale Insights describes it in this menu. Then Scale Insights asks us for the maximum bid decrease and the maximum bid increase. So this is saying, hey, Scale Insights, I know we have this 25% target ACOS goal, but if I'm beneath that goal, I don't want you to raise it by more than 10% every time you adjust the bid, or I don't want you to decrease it by 10% each time. So by default, the rule will run every time this keyword gets 15 clicks. And if it gets 15 clicks, when you adjust the bid, don't bump it more than 10% or decrease it more than 10%. Why would we do that? Because a best practice in PPC is not changing things too drastically because it can change your keyword placement very drastically as well. And you want to make small changes and see what the result is, and then make small changes and see what the result is. So that's often best practice here. So that's it. Everything else is a more advanced setting that we're not going to worry about. But in review, what this rule says is we're going to try to achieve a 25% target ACOS. Scale Insights, every 15 clicks this keyword gets in the past 30 days, looking at the past 30 days, I want you to optimize it towards a 25% target ACOS. But I don't want you to adjust the bid more than 10% at a time, and I'm not willing to pay more than $2. So that's what the rule is. And we come down, we click create, and we'll be able to see it under our library of bidding rules now, this 25% target ACOS rule. That's the one we just made. So our campaigns will show up here, and I'll click what campaigns I want to apply it to. I'll click that 25% target ACOS rule, click set, and now it's applied to those campaigns. And you'll see it right here, rules 25% target ACOS. Now, I will add that I usually don't start using Scale Insights until about 2 weeks into new product launches. The reason for this is because I like to manually manage my bids for the first week or 2 weeks because I expect my ACOS to be super high. I'm just trying to get impressions, and I like to use my mind to see what's working and what's not working. And then once I know that, I'll say, okay, now it's time to stabilize my ad spend, decrease my ad spend, bring some stability to my account. And that's when I'll start applying these target ACOS rules to my campaigns. Of course, it doesn't have to be 2 weeks. I'm just using this for an example for what I do. How long your product is in the launch phase is dependent upon your category and how much money you're willing to burn. But that's what I do, and it's worked for me. So that's an overview of how to use the bidding rule. You can create your own rule and apply it to your account, copying what I just did. And you only have to use the bidding rule. You don't have to use any of these other rules, and it will help control your ad spend. It's nothing fancy. I know it looks overwhelming because there's so many fields, but like again, we only used one rule and we only used about 4 or 5 fields. So yeah, keep it simple and see the results that gives you.